hit the record button, and then we start. So to show you the possibilities with PrintCSS, I thought we start with a little business card, and instead of installing a tool, a PDF renderer on my machine, we will use PrintCSS.live, and there we have the option of the 3 different renderers: VCPrint, an open source renderer, Typeset, a PHP based renderer, and PageJS, another open source renderer you can get. Okay, so when you load this page, you directly see already the default sample is a business card with 2 pages. So basically that would be the back side of the business card, and that is the main side with all the information about the person, contact details, and company details. So how is that done? On this website you see 2 sections, HTML, CSS. Basically it's a standard HTML, very basic structure. As you see here, we have a div with some class break. We have a span with a head for the name and the fancy and long title. So these 2 elements here. And then we have the contact details and a footer with the company address. The footer is in a separate span so that we get this nice little border here. All the other stuff like this image and the rest is done in the CSS part. So let's go there and have a look. So in the CSS part we directly see some specifics to CSS paged media, and that is the add page rule. We will come to that a little later. Let's first scroll down and see what all we have there. Or if you don't want to scroll in this tiny window here, what you can do is press F11 and you get a full screen editor for your CSS, or if you are in the HTML editor for the HTML, of course. So we see these add page rules, which we will discuss in a second, and then pretty standard style. So on the body we set a font size of 10 pd. Every bold element gets this RGB color, this is this red which we saw. Font size is here set to 1.5 rem, and then head is a display inline block. We have some margin, the footer display inline block with a margin top, then the border which we saw there, and the padding left. Another specific to CSS paged media is here this break with the page break after always. And before we have a look at that, let's start here with the add page rules, and for that let me press escape that we see the PDF also here. So what you see in this add page rule, which is specific to CSS paged media, it wouldn't render in a browser. In a browser you don't have a page size, right? You only have your full website, and depending on the size of your viewport, that's then also the size of your website. So endless scroll, no pages basically. But here we can define the size of our page. We see we have 3.5 inch by 2 inch. So let's say if I would change this 2 inch to 3 inch and render again, we see here the size is changed, and when we make 3.5 we get a nice square. But actually 3.5 by 2 inch is a standard business card site, so we keep that. Another thing you can do is the margin for the content. You see it here basically. So when I put it from 0.25 inch, for example, to 1.25 inch, we see the content directly moves, and now the content spreads over several pages, because with this margin it doesn't fit on one page anymore. So the renderer will automatically create as many pages as the content actually needs. So let me change that back, and instead of writing 0.25, I of course can also write 0.25, and we get our original PDF back. What we see here also is bleed and crop marks. So bleed is basically an area which we have around here in which your content can overflow, let's say. So if you want to print on a paper and you want to print till the edges of the paper, you need to have some overflowing area, and that only works with this bleed and then the crop marks in combination. So basically the crop marks define where the paper will be cut after printing. That would be here, here, around. And the bleed is the area around that in which the color is overflowing. So the printer will basically not print also here till the corner, but till the bleed area, and then you can cut it here, or it will be cut here, and you have the red till the corners. So also here, if I don't want these crop marks, if I don't want the bleed area, because it's not for printing, let's say, but I want this business card only on my desktop, or if the printing agency itself takes care of these marks, then we can remove them. And then we have directly also a smaller document, because we don't have these areas there anymore. Okay, then let's keep it like this and go further. The next thing we see here is add page first. So with this we can only style the first page, and as you see, we set the red background, we set the image, and we center the image, tell it no repeat, and set the margin to 0. As we only have a background here and actually no content, we also could remove the margin 0, and we will have the same effect. Further, as we saw, it's only standard style till the break, and in the break we have this page break after always. If I would remove these two things here, we see the content starts at the first page, and that directly in here we don't see the red text because it's the same color as the background. But what we actually want is we want the break so that the text starts at the second or the next page basically. So the element, or each element which has this break class, defines that after the element we want to start with a new page. So where is this used? It's basically used here in this empty div. So when I render again, we get our two pages again. Now let's say I want this foot also on a different page, or basically let's say everything after this fancy title. So we could add the break class also here, render again, and nothing happens. Probably we did something wrong. Let's see, the head is not a block element. I guess that's the issue. Yeah, so as soon as it's a block element, it's respecting also this break, and now we have 3 pages. But we don't want it to be block, so let's go back to inline block and also remove the break here again. Okay, so this is how you do the page break, and what we also could try is in the head class we do a page break before and say always. So nothing changed. Let's see, the header again is an inline block element. So let's make it to a block element. And you see we have again another page. Okay, then let's put it back to the standard from before. Let's see, we forgot the inline here. Okay, good. Then let's see if we can customize this and get it into our design of PrintCSS Live. So for that, let's first start here, adding actual data. We keep the fake phone number, but let's put the correct website. The company is the PrintCSS sample company, and this company is located somewhere in Hamburg. So if we render that again, we see PrintCSS sample company, my name, and everything. But now the logo needs to be changed, and of course the colors need to be adapted. So all we need to do here is we take the image link of our logo, replace this, and render. If you have VisiPrint or any of these renderers installed locally, you of course can also use local parts. You don't need to load it from some website. You see the image is way too big, so we need to add a new property here, background size, and let's say 60% of the image size. Okay, perfect. And now of course we want to get rid of this background color, or maybe change it to something else, but for now let's get rid of it. Now we have this logo nicely centered, and all we need to do is change these colors here. Let me go back here. You see the color is one time for the bold and one time for this border. Let's go here, inspect, and take this color out of here. Actually, it's the Tailwind Indigo 500. And let's put the hex code here and for the border. And there it is. We have a nice business card. And now let's say maybe you want the image on the same page, and basically you don't want two sides of your business card to be printed, but only one. So let's put that icon maybe somewhere here. So what we need to do is, first of all, we don't want a break. So let's remove this element. Then we see everything starts at the first page, but it's not really fitting. So let's see what we have here. First of all, we have the margin, and then we have our page first with this description and the position of the logo. Let's say right top. And then also let's change a little bit in here. So let's see how to fit this on one page. So now we still have that on the second page, and actually you always will need to render a few times to see what's the issue. So the head is also a little too far up. Maybe will not fit everything like we did before in the same way. So let's see, first of all we can remove the break here, we don't need the class anymore, but nothing would change in the output. Okay, then maybe let's go for a little less margin on the page and see how that looks. Yeah, now we have everything on one page, but this is still overlapping here. So either we decrease the logo size or we move everything a little lower and make it maybe smaller. But let's first try to make a very small logo. It's almost too small. So let's say 40%, double the size. 40 is too much. So 35. And there you see the logo. Of course, this space here is not used right now. Could also maybe do it differently. So put the text somewhere here or put some additional information here, but for now let's keep it like this. And what you can do now is, if you have multiple people in your company, you could duplicate that code sometimes, and you will see now, of course, you get the name, but this logo you won't get because we applied it only to page first. So actually, let's see what happens if we apply it to page, and then we have it on every page. In this way, you could generate an HTML dynamically with all the names. The style sheet is always the same, and then you get a PDF with all your different business cards. And now let's remove the additional business cards again. Okay, that should be only one left. Yes, exactly. And let's see how we maybe can distribute this a little nicer. So let's see, we have this footer here class, foot, and in here let's see, we have a margin, we have a border, and we have this padding between the border and the content. The margin top, that we have a little separator between these elements. And let's first see, debugging with border red, and you see this is this element here. And now let's try something else. We rotate it, and let's say we make like this, and then we need to position it, or I want to position it here. So let's see, position absolute right 0, top 0. That might be now a little wrong because of the rotate. Yeah. So let's go here and say bottom. Too much. What is the margin? The margin is this. Let's put that as bottom value. And it's a little try and error. That's still not fine. Let's double this. Looking better, but I guess we need way more. So let's add 0.5 to it. but still the text is a little too long, as you see here. It will not completely fit, but also my company name is a little long. Let's see, maybe we change the font size of this foot. So let's say 8. Yeah, okay, but then we also can change a little bit here again. And we need to move it to the right. So we say minus, what is that? 0.5, maybe. Let's see. Let's make it 7.5. And then change the border again to what we had before. And let's see the border left, and then we probably need to move it up again. So now we have the company name here. It's maybe a little too far on the right side now. So let's try 0.5 again. No, that's too much. 7.565. That's a little trying. And see what looks nice, and ideally we should be checking that we have the same distance. Now it's again overlapping with the logo, but now we can put the logo nicely below here. So we say left bottom. And let's give it a size of 50%. Okay, then let's see, we have here our margin, and that's why the text is basically a little farther in than the image, because the image is set here as a background image. If we want it differently, we can of course also set the image here with a normal image tag. And all we need to do is copy that, put it here. And now again we see the size is wrong for the image. So what we had here is background size 50. We need to do something similar for our image. So first let's remove all the background properties here and go for image. And let's say width maybe 50% of this PDF page. And then we have it here because we have a span and also no breaks. Of course you can do that nicer with diffs, but for now let's put simply a break here and we would have it directly there. We don't want that, we want it far below. So let's say image and copy that stuff. Image position absolute left. And now we can also pass to margin. Now it's looking nicer and we have a nice looking business card. Maybe we even change the space between the contact info and the rest. So that is then the class head here. So let's say 7.5 instead of 0.5. And we have a little more space. So this is a nice looking business card. The unimportant information where the companies we have here. my important contact details are here, and as you see, is automatically linked. Okay, then before we close today's session, let's see how it renders with other renderers. To be aware, it's like previously trying to style for IE, Internet Explorer 6 and maybe Firefox. So these renderers will behave differently. But in the end, you will decide for one renderer and can style this specifically for that, because it will be installed on your machine or on your server. See, for example, typeset, we would need to adjust these two elements correctly, but otherwise it's looking quite nice. And paged.js, we get it also very nice, although when we see here the margin is different, so when I change this to 0 and 0 for the image again, we see here the position absolute starts actually within this margin, while on VisiPrint it starts from the corner of the page. Okay, then let's make it nice again for VisiPrint. Also move this first here. Oh, what did we do wrong? No, should also copy it completely, not only the I. And the last thing, maybe let's change the font, and you can actually use any web font here. So let's go to Google Fonts. And let's just take, what shall we take? Maybe Robotus. And here let's take the extra bold. That looks nice. And we want to embed it. And we actually can just take this, put it in our HTML. And then we take font family definition and go here and define it. And now you see the font changed in the whole document. When we change to typeset, we get a server error. Maybe something is wrong with loading the font. I would need to check actually on the machine itself. Yeah. But PageCSS also renders very nicely. Okay, if you want to look into more samples, more information, you can go down here to the helpful resources, where you get an introduction on the nice PrintCSS rocks page with a lot of lessons and samples here. For example, footnotes, multi-column layouts, set indexes, and a lot of different renderers where you see whether it's rendering okay or not. So for example, basic should be fine. In all of these different renderers, we have VisiPrint here. PageJS is actually not tested yet, and then we have a few commercial converters. You find the HTML also, and you can just embed that in your local machine. Or in PrintCSS Live, you would just need to replace this relative links with absolute ones. Additionally, you find some blog posts from Smashing Magazine, List Apart, showing how to create books or designing for PrintCSS. You find the documentation itself, so the working draft, and you have a comparison of different HTML tools on my other website, HTML to PDF Guru. So here, for example, you can go to personal. You find the business card again, which we saw in the beginning, but you also find some other examples. And when we go back, you can also check all the CSS properties and selectors. So let's go to the properties and go, for example, to G. Then we find here grid table columns. You see how it renders with the different tools. And when we go to the download, we get a full HTML including the CSS code, and you can directly take that, go here and put it, and keep the CSS empty, or go here and move the CSS from here to the CSS section. If I render that now with VisiPrint, you will see it doesn't really work as you see here. This is always a sample how Chrome would render it, and here the screenshots how the other tools render it. But if we go to typeset, we will see typeset is able to render the grid layout properly if we compare it here with the output. Let's see page.js, and we see even they rendered almost properly, it just overflows on the next page. Okay, great. Then the next time I will show you how to write company letters and maybe also billing info with PrintCSS. Okay, see you soon. Bye.